Hi everyone, thank you for the opportunity to present here today. I feel really privileged to be able to come and talk to you all. I will just open up. Oh. Sorry, I'll just be a minute. There we go. So I'm a researcher from the University of Melbourne in Australia, and actually, so my research, I started by focusing on the quality of life of children with cerebral palsy and adolescents with cerebral palsy. So we developed a quality of life scale for children, and then I think through a lot of the interviewing that we did for that, I really became interested in the quality of life of parents and caregivers, and we're now focusing on the mental health of caregivers. So this research, our research is part of a broader program that we have in Australia called a Centre of Research Excellence for Cerebral Palsy. And this is led by a paediatrician, Dinah Reddyhoff. One of our objectives is to determine how best to support carers and improve family life. And so that's where this work that I'll talk about today fits in. We actually have a parent and carer engagement group that we work with on all our research. And so I would like to acknowledge them. So they meet regularly with us. We talk to them about what kind of research we could be doing in this area. And they shape it. They're very honest, they're fantastic. So they've actually guided much of the work that I'll be presenting today. So I just want to start by talking about what is mental health. So I'll just read out a definition first. So it's a dynamic state that refers to individuals' ability to develop their potential, work productively and creatively, build strong and positive relationships with others, and contribute to their community. So I really just want to highlight that sometimes when we say mental health, I think people think about mental illness, and particularly anxiety and depression. And when we're talking about mental health, we're also talking about mental wellbeing. So what I'm going to do is just cover kind of what we've done in this space so far. So we got some government funding in 2013 to develop a resource on mental wellbeing for parents. I have some copies, but I'm currently working with Michelle, so this is obviously, some of it would be relevant, but it also has links to services and things. So we are trying to develop a US version, but if anyone wants to have a look at that, you can. So following the development of the resource, we also tried to kind of use some creative ways to engage stakeholders and service providers, get them really interested in this issue. So we did a theatre production which then turned into a film around the lives of parents, very short film, 7 minutes. That's all they have time for. But it does give insight, some insight into the lives of parents. And then what we're now doing is actually working with service providers and early intervention to build the capacity of health professionals and the organisation as a whole to be able to better support parents' mental health. So what I wanted to do was share with you just some of the content of the resource that we've developed. So the way we developed this resource was we talked to both parents and health professionals. So we did a review and really showed there's no resources out there like this. There's little sections often within a resource about, you know, the importance of taking care of yourself, but not a whole lot more information than that, and nothing just dedicated to wellbeing for parents of children with a disability. So we spoke to parents and health professionals, and these are some of the things that they said they would like to see in a resource. So something that could normalise the range of emotions that you may feel, give you actions for looking after yourself, talk about why self-care is so important, and give parents permission to focus on themselves. and also referral pathways, early signs of mental health problems. But the kind of number one thing was that this type of resource needs to be from other parents. So they wanted the advice to come from other parents and not be told by health professionals what they should be doing. So what we did with this resource is full of parents' experiences, parent quotes, and it was co-written by a psychologist and a parent. So I'm just going to share some of the topics from the resource. So number one is about prioritising yourself and the importance of doing that. So Tina, parent of Stacey, says, you get too carried away in everybody else's needs and you put yourself at the end of the pile. Unless someone is actually telling you to prioritise it, you tend not to. So it's very easy to lose sight of your own physical and mental health. And my colleague, Dr. Helen Burke-Taylor, talks about, being in an aeroplane and putting on your oxygen mask before your children and how important that is. And self-care is important not only for your current health, but also for your future health. So Tessa, parent of Duncan, says, I woke up this year thinking I've got to come first. I've just turned 50 and all of a sudden I'm realising that if I don't look after myself, I'm actually not going to be there for them. I think when I was younger that didn't really occur to me. So just that, sustainability. And it's really important when the time is right for you to be able to think about your wellbeing. And this is David's advice, a parent of Sarah. So he says, I say first of all, just slow down and stop. Do an audit or an assessment of where you are now. Say to yourself, okay, this is where I'm up to, this is how I'm feeling, and this is the emotion I have. Have a good look at yourself in the mirror. How am I thinking? How am I functioning? And I think, what I find quite striking, as a researcher, we talk to parents about how they're going, and often there's lots of questions about the child, and then we say, and what about you? And the number of times that parents kind of break down then and say, actually, I haven't thought about myself. So that reflection and that processing, they have not been able to do that. And I think, it's not the ideal place to come out in a research interview because we're not there for that purpose. And so, other people need to be asking as well. So this is just kind of some prompts around what when you're thinking about your wellbeing, if you can take 5 minutes to think about, these are the types of things that you would want to think about. So do you have someone you can talk to about how you're feeling? Are you getting enough sleep? And probably everyone would say no. Are you eating regular, nutritious meals? Are you able to do exercise? Can you think clearly? Can you take breaks from caring? Can you connect with others socially? Can you set aside time to do things that you actually enjoy? Do you feel happy and content with your life, and do you feel hopeful about tomorrow? And I realise this list is quite overwhelming, and it may be that at particular periods you can't change any of these things, but I suppose it's about, and what we're kind of hoping is that this is a resource that you could come back to when the time is right, when it's less stressful, and maybe choose one thing to focus on. And it's really important as well to identify when you're not okay, and I think it's not always easy to know when you're not okay, and it can be a very gradual process. But I think being aware, and it's about having that time to process and think about changes in your thoughts or feelings or behaviours, and so having time to reflect on those. Changes in your appetite, sleep, energy levels, if you're feeling sad or hopeless or having negative thoughts. And what's really important is to be able to share how you're feeling, be it with family or friends or a support worker or a professional, or to be able to get professional help. So some of the advice from parents around how you can improve your wellbeing, and it's about thinking around what strategies are best for you and at that particular time. So the first one is asking for help. So Beryl, parent of Christina, says, one of the things from my experience would be to open your arms and your heart for whatever help is offered. Don't be proud and don't think as a mother or a father, you should do it all. So, really important to be able to talk to people, talk to family and friends, tell them what help you're needing. And if that doesn't exist, then to be exploring with services. Avoiding being too hard on yourself. So Tim talks about being kind. You never get recognised for caring, so just hearing you're doing a good job, that's all you need to hear sometimes. Just keep going, you're doing a good job. And one thing that might be useful is to each day, or sometimes write down some of your achievements throughout that day and keep that so you can look back, because you are achieving even if you're not hearing the feedback all the time. Obviously really important as well is taking a break from caring, and this one is so complex and I think generated the most discussion among the parents, particularly around formal respite, so whether it's formal or informal respite if you have family and friends. But Elena says getting respite is a real issue for some families. They think that nobody else can provide the care that they can. But respite can give you a break. It will be different to what you do, but it's all about investing in your family and your marriage and your children, and the fact you want it to be sustainable. So it's about working out ways that you can have some time to yourself. And also doing things that you're interested in as well, and being realistic about what you can do. So Anna, parent of Alex, talks about you have to do things that are realistic in your lifestyle. So for me to get to the gym every day is not that realistic, but to walk out my front door and go for a vigorous walk is, now that they're at school. It's about finding ways of making that happen. And so it might be, really small that if you can choose something that you want to do and you schedule 10 minutes each day to be able to do that. Building social relationships are really important, and parents spoke about the benefits of support groups and how much they valued them. And they don't necessarily have to be sitting around. So Rena says, I like groups that are focused around an activity like art therapy or a walking group, something that's not, let's just sit and talk about our problems over a cup of coffee. Rather, let's enjoy a leisure activity that's not just about the disability. I've kind of touched on this as well, but talking about how you feel is really important, whether it's with family, friends or professionals. So Mabel says you need 1 hour every few weeks to sit in a room across from someone and get it all out, because it's better to say it to someone like a psychologist than to say it to your partner and cause friction in the house. So it's whoever you would find the best person to talk to, and obviously access is an issue in terms of going to a psychologist. And I think the challenge that parents talk about for us in terms of a psychologist is actually finding the right one, and parents want someone who specialises in this area, and we don't have many. I mean, parents that have found someone, it's normally been through talking to other parents about who they see, but there's very few psychologists that specialise in this area. So this is just a resource though, and I kind of would like to talk a little bit more around what else we're doing, because it can be useful. It can be a useful reminder, particularly when things become overwhelming, and I think that's why it's perhaps good to bring it out when times are stressful. And it probably creates awareness about the importance of wellbeing and thinking about yourself, and potentially is a resource that's available when the time is right for you. But it really is just the beginning. And I just want to highlight, so what I presented at the conference was a study that we did. So we conducted a study on 300 mothers of children with a disability, and they filled out an online survey about their mental health and their need for support. And what we found was in the last 12 months, so 75% of our sample had perceived a need for professional mental health support. But what we also found was that 42% of those did not access support. And there's a whole range of reasons why they didn't access support. And these are some of the barriers. The number one barrier being, my caring responsibilities make it hard to schedule. So even if you have the best intentions to get professional help, it's very difficult to have more appointments. but also potentially barriers around understanding of mental health and the perceived benefit of mental health support. So mothers also said, they didn't think the problem was severe or serious enough. They prefer to manage themselves, or they didn't think anything could help. And so what we're doing now is trying to explore how health professionals and early intervention services can better support mothers' mental health, because and parents in general, but this study was focused on mothers. But the parents are going to their child health appointments, and so it's an opportunity to be connecting with parents. But there are also barriers to that. So we've spoken to, done interviews with mothers and also health professionals around their perception of talking about potential mental health issues to their health professionals. And I think there's a real stigma still around mental health problems. And so this particular mother says, I think sometimes you're just afraid of being judged, like you're weak. I think you're too scared to really tell people, because it's just, if I really lay it out there, then it's open. And mothers say to us that they go to their child health appointments and want to be completely in control and project an image of being organised, and they want to focus on their child. But I think there is this real stigma around mental health. And for us as well, when we talk to health professionals, and these are allied health, so physiotherapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, they also find it really hard to talk to mothers about how they're coping. And so, an example of an occupational therapist, she says, I don't find that conversation easy. I find it hard. I'm much more comfortable talking about the child's development. So I think, it's coming from both sides. So what we're trying to do now is work with service providers to create this supportive environment for families. And so we're currently developing and piloting a program to build the capacity of health professionals in early intervention services to better support parents' mental health. And it's not about asking the OTs and speech therapists to be psychologists, but it is about working in partnership with families. It's about being aware of how a parent is coping, acknowledging and validating how parents are feeling, being comfortable having that conversation around a referral pathway if there are problems. And then the other thing as well is the need to support staff wellbeing. So for these health professionals, they need to feel supported as well to be then able to support parents. So I would just like to acknowledge our parent and care engagement group and all the parents who have been involved in our research. Thank you.